And welcome back to Vanessa's podcast. And today I have a super brand new author. Her name is DW Plato. Is that your name? Is that how you say it?
DW Plato.
Okay. And you've been an author for how long?
My first book came out in 2016, but I've literally been writing all my life.
Okay. And so what made you write this latest book, that Trial and Tribulation? And what's the name exactly?
Yep. It's Trials and Tribulations of Modesty Greene.
In Master Greene, okay.
It was inspired on a two-part. The first part was I was curious of why Harriet Tubman was the one chosen to be on a $20 bill. So when I started doing a little bit of research on her, I realized what an amazing woman she is, and way more than what our history books teach. Around that same time, I was privileged to go to Dakar, Senegal with my daughter, and we were able to visit the Gorée Island. We went to the Door of No Return, where millions of slaves were sold over a 100-year period, and that was the second part that motivated this book.
Oh my God, okay. And so you say your daughter to, it was your niece to narrate the book?
Yep, I had three narrators. I had a vision. The book takes place from three different point of views. Modesty Greene, and then Harriet Tubman, whose nickname is Minty, and then her little brother, Benji Ross. And I had a vision. I wanted each of those parts to be very specific. And I did a lot of auditions for the man's part, for the Benji Ross part. And I really wanted him to age throughout the book. In the beginning of the book, he's only 5 or 6 years old. At the end of the book, he's in his 30s. And my niece saw that vision, and she's had some voice training. She's wants to be an actress when she grows up. And I gave her a shot at it, and she did it in her basement on Guitar Hero, and she recorded it.
Oh my God, yeah?
It turned out fantastic. She did a really, really good job. So yeah, she does the part of Benji Ross. Michelle Williams does the part of Harriet Tubman, and then Nini Nwako does the part of Modesty Greene. And with Nini, I literally stalked her. I know this sounds terrible, but I found her on the internet, and she has such a wonderful African accent, and I really wanted Modesty to have that very genuine African accent.
Yeah, it was really important to have that. Yeah.
To find her and talk her into doing not only the reading but the producing, and she did an amazing job. So yeah, 3 narrators on that book. The audio turned out absolutely phenomenal. So
wait, let's listen a little bit. I'm just going to play a sample so we can have an idea.
Throughout the dinner, Little Mo moved around the circle.
So whose voice is that?
With a tied to her back, looking for Jabari. She didn't see him nor his brothers, but she saw his father talking and eating with her father. Her eyes moved from face to face, seeking out Jabari's mother. She would ask her where the boys were this evening. An arm grabbed hers from behind. She sensed it was her man and smiled radiant and full-toothed as she turned. It was Jabari's mother, standing tall and looking flawless. "Have you seen Jabari?" she asked with no expression. "Earlier, when I got water, he went with MM."
Oh yeah, I can hear the accent.
Speaking, she nodded and moved deeper into the throngs of people seeking her mate. "Everything in order?" Fanta asked as she untied Emeka and took him from Little Mo's back. "Jabari's mom was looking for him and his brothers. I don't see them here." It would be highly improbable for anyone of the village to miss the nightly meal without a good reason. Illness, death in the family, or injury would count as a cause for absence, but then the whole village would know why you were missing. Modesty's eyes continued to search the crowd. She caught Mambo staring at her. The old woman made the sign of apology. "I am sorry," she said silently. Worry knitted Little Mo's face as Jabari's father brought the concern to the attention of the villagers. "It seems our sons are missing," he boomed, more light-hearted.
Yeah, she's really doing a wonderful job. It sounds really good.
She does a great job. That's about the first third of the book is her voice. And then Michelle Williams does Harriet Tubman, and like I said, Tishelle Peterson, my niece, does Benji Ross, and they have the last 2/3 of the book.
Okay, and now let's talk about the story and why did you write it? Beside the fact that you just wanted to tell the story, like how profound was it for you to write that, and why was it so important for you to write it? And how long is your book?
The book is, I think, 6 hours on audio. It's, I want to say, around 400 pages if you read it, a hardcover book. I feel like there can't be enough books out there about what the Black people in America have gone through.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to tell the story. Like I said, Harriet Tubman coming out on the $20 bill in 2020 next year. It was important to me to let people know what a great person she was. She was the first woman who took an army for America into battle. It wasn't the United States of America at that time because it was during the Civil War. But she led a whole battalion into battle. She's never gotten credit for that. That's not something that's taught in the history books.
Like those people who are left behind and you never hear of them. And it's nice, like sometimes there's always somebody trying to bring somebody back, be like, why is that name not, not
why do we not
hear
more about this amazing woman? I 100% agree. And then doing a little more research about how she ended up here. She was born in Maryland, but her grandmother was the one that was stolen from Senegambia prior to when it split and became Senegal and Gambia. But her grandmother was sold through the door of no return.
Wow.
And
so the slavery story is a lot of cruelty and and misery, and basically like she could have had that wonderful life, bright future life, and it was taken away from her, and she ended up living that horrible life.
Yep, completely, totally stolen from her. And that's one of the beta readers before I published the book. So they didn't like how choppy it became with the family as it goes through the book. But the thing is, when you start doing research on Black genealogy and you start finding families, there are big chunks missing because there were records destroyed during the time when slavery became abolished. There were records that were destroyed, and there were big chunks of people's lives completely just disappeared.
That is disgusting.
It's difficult to find the lineage. It's difficult nowadays with the DNA and everything that they have, the 23andMe and all of that. It's a little easier. But back then, of course, these paper records were fragile, and they were very easily missing, very easily destroyed. And there were big chunks of many Black Americans' family histories that are just gone.
Just disappeared. Oh, wow.
Disappeared, yeah. In a lot of instances, cows and the cattle and the horses, the records were kept more, and they were kept more accurate than the slaves. And that's
wow.
Because they were breaking the law at that point. The slave owners were supposed to emancipate their slaves. They didn't. They would change the slaves' age so that they could keep them in the fields longer. And so these records were manipulated. They were lost. They were destroyed. And so it does become a little bit choppy as far as the lineage goes. But that's because that's the way it is when you really start to do research on the family.
Yeah, it's like unless you really interested and get into it, then you won't know all these things, So that's why you want to put it out there for people to, absorb more information and then just get more knowledge of the, matter. And so how long did it take you to write this 400-page book?
Years research, and it took about 6 months to write. But
that's pretty fast, actually. 400 page.
All of my books take between 6 and 7 months to write, but then they take 6 or 7 months to edit.
Yeah, as long the same amount of time. Wow.
Yeah, I can write them quickly, but then the hardest part, the real work for me, starts when you type the end. I mean, honestly, with any book, I feel like with any author, the writing part is the easy part. The editing, the marketing, all of that other stuff.
It takes a lot of energy. Yeah, And I only write short books, so if I pass the 100 page, I'll be happy. So I can't even, for me, I'm always learning, and so it's great to, learn more about author like you who write so much and huge books like this. And I also love history too. So, it's anything new, catch my interest anyway. So, and, you don't want this book to be about racism, do you? You want this book to be more about
history.
About history, okay.
And this is a story that was not in. I went to school in America. I went all through my high school, my college, everything. The things in this book were never taught. The things in this book were never brought to my attention. I lived in white bread America. I was the only, there was only white kids in my school. I mean, these are things that I personally, none of my class was ever taught. And to me, it just feels like it's been whitewashed. And
like it's wrong. Yeah.
This story needs to be told. It needs to be heard because it's not right the way things came down for a lot of the black people.
And you're saying that things coming on 2020?
I think Trump has stopped it, but Harriet Tubman was nominated back. It's been several years that Harriet Tubman was nominated to be on the $20 bill. I'm not sure it's actually going to happen. I got my fingers crossed that the U.S. Treasury still goes forward with it. But I think that our current administration, I don't think anything of that sort will get done soon. But eventually, yes, she was. If you Google it, they have a picture of her. The picture that they chose was later in her life when she was a little heavier, after she had been freed and had plenty of food to eat. But for the most of her life, she was very thin, as all the slaves were, because they were not fed properly. But later in life, she did have all Harriet Tubman wanted was to live with her family and to be free, to live with her family. And that's all she wanted. And she got that at the end of her life. She was able to provide a home for her parents. She was able to take care of her parents as they got old and passed away. It's, I just feel like it's history that needs to be told.
Yeah. And what do you think was the worst parts in your book for you to write, and it was maybe emotional for you? Or?
Well, when we were in Dakar and I went to Gorée Island, I'm almost going to start crying telling you this. I became so emotional during that tour. I cried the entire tour. And recreating the horrors of what happened in Gorée Island. When you go to visit, they show you where the slaves were kept prior to being shipped off all over the world. And they literally built the rooms the same size as the ship hull rooms. And so, dozens of children would be crammed into these tiny, tiny rooms. And then they would be taken from these tiny rooms and then crammed into another tiny room in the bottom of a ship. And it is so
oh my God, it's awful. Yeah,
it's awful. It's awful. And that was probably the hardest. And then the slave traders, if somebody died on the ship, they would just toss their body over the ocean. They just tossed their bodies like they were trash. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of black bodies down at the bottom of our oceans because they just, without thinking, without care, without any kind of empathy, would just throw these people's carcasses over the railing. And it's just the first part of the book is tough.
Wow, yeah, it just feels
very difficult to recreate. And the more research I did, it really got me angry that this is how it all came down. And that's another reason that I feel like it's so powerful. It's a lesson that people need to know because we don't hear that in our history classes. We don't hear this in history books or in lessons.
And for people who don't want to read, who don't like to read, then that's why there's the audiobook, because it makes it easier. They want to hear the story, they can just listen to it,
Yeah, I'm an audiobook junkie. I go through 2 or 3 audiobooks a week.
Oh, wow.
I love audiobooks. I've been listening to audiobooks since they were on cassette tapes back in the 80s. I love audiobooks. So for me, as an indie author, it's very important that all of my books are available in audio,